Thank you, Fred. Nice to meet everybody. Day three. I've really enjoyed the first 2 days. Lots of conversation. Once again, I've really enjoyed the vibe. What the energies in this room. We're all pretty much on the same page, and I think we get a we have a good sense of where our ultimate goals are for our Indigenous communities on Turtle Island. And I'm always come away from these summits motivated, knowing that I'm not just doing myself. There's a whole community out there wanting to doing the the digital divide is something that has to be tackled, and how are we going to do it? So there's a lot of people here on the same page. That motivates me. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for your energy and your conversations. It's been something that I value very much. So today, it's the focus is on workforce development, and many of our conversations today will be around that theme. And myself, my role at the ICI is workforce development initiatives, and we work with workshops in community to help wherever they may be on their journey. They might be at square one, or they already have some sort of a network, or they already running an ISP. And if there is some way where we can support them, we have that conversation. We do a workshop, and it's the idea of it is to kind of enhance whatever the agenda is they feel meets their needs. We kind of work with them, and we've had a few this year, and we're planning some for 2026 as well, which is quite exciting. So, but in our conversations, once the ICI came up and running, we realized it's okay to build the network, but what you need is people to manage it. And like every other industry, you worry about once the current people that are doing the work, what happens next once they move on, and that's the big question. I was at an event last year in Calgary, and it was the same question that was asked with the Fiber Broadband Association. Once we retire, who's going to take over all the work? And I remember having that same conversation when I worked with the federal government. We have a lot of people at that retirement age, and how do we replenish? So it's not a unique question, but it does affect us in our work. So with that being said, we have my esteemed panel here, and we'll be asking questions along those lines about where are we at, and where are the gaps, and how can we do better? And is there any strategies that are happening right now, or they will share their thoughts, and at some point maybe we'll bring it to the room to ask questions as well, to have a more full conversation as well. So anyway, without further ado, I'll pass it over to the panelists and introduce themselves. Sean?
Good morning. Yukik Sapiao, Snukampo Nitsikasun. Good morning. My name is Sean Yellowbird from Musquecheese Samson Cree Nation, and my company is Standing Rock Innovations.
Yeah. My name is Peter Leeton. I'm the CEO of Sitjun, which is a fiber-based ISP in very remote northern Quebec, the town of Schefferville, or the region of Schefferville. The owners of the network are the Naskapi Nation of Kawashikamash, the Innu Nations of Matamakash and Lac John in Schefferville area, and also Washat and Manutnam in the Setzil area. We built the fiber network in 2018 predominantly, been running ever since. We've since added an LTE network as well in the area. We have about 10 employees full-time up there, a mix of local people and people that we've had to bring in, part of our discussion today. We do offer a full suite of services, triple play, LTE, like I said. I would argue that it is the best internet in Canada. We essentially have no oversubscription and a pretty nice backhaul, so it works really, really well. Looking forward to talking about this today. I would also want to acknowledge all of the youth that have come out today. It's fantastic. So glad to see you guys. Thanks.
Good morning. My name is Nikki Miswagan. I am the program manager for Manitoba First Nation SchoolNet. I guess we help out 58 First Nation schools in Manitoba with their ICT needs, networking needs. So yeah, we range from like the north to like the most southern reserve, which is pretty nice. You know, we do a lot of work with youth as well, so it's nice to see you guys here. Most of the work that I do is with youth, so it's nice to see you guys here. Welcome, and I hope you guys had a lot of got a lot of valuable information from this summit. So it's nice to see you guys, and welcome everybody.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tricia Toso. I'm here representing Alfred Loon from EU Communications Network. This is actually a map of the ECN network. It's about 4,000 kilometers of fiber optic connecting 14 communities. And they also provide e-services to health, education, and there's aerial, in the ground, and submarine fiber.
Thank you, everybody. So I guess the first question that I'll put to the full panel is, in terms of your workforce that is existing right now, do you have enough to meet your needs, or is there gaps? And where would your gaps be? Sean?
Hello again. Yeah, to be honest, I believe that there is a lot of untapped resources within communities. My firm belief, at least where I come from, we have four neighboring communities, Ermineskin Cree Nation, Samson Cree Nation, Montana, and Louis Bull. And I kind of liken it to everybody seems to have a backyard mechanic. And a lot of time when you ask a backyard mechanic, like, why didn't you go to school? Why aren't you working? Because you're really good at what you do. A lot of the times I found that they don't know the exact route to get that opportunity. So what we've done with Standing Rock is we've started to learn to focus and tap into the local capacity of the nations themselves. So when our process is a one-year process where we will vet and interview people who are just interested and they've got talent and a drive for it. And once they get through our vetting process, vetting process sounds so official. It's really just dinner and a few interviews. Just sit and get to know them personally on a personal level. Do they have the drive for this? And then after that, we give them 6 months to a 6 months employment to show us what they can do and what they can learn, and do they have the actual drive for it. After 6 months, we end up enrolling them in our local tech college, which is NAIT in Edmonton, and we get them a certificate within 6 months. And then by the end of the year, they've got a 1-year certificate and 1 year's experience, and they can get their foot in the door. And I think that's the main challenge is, what is that process? A lot of people are just either too scared to ask or they don't know to ask. So absolutely, to answer your question, I do believe that at least the communities I've worked with, and I've worked with over 10 communities so far, I can count in my head, and each one of them has met that need.
Okay. Peter? Like in terms of your existing workforce,
Yeah.
Are you at capacity, or is there gaps? And like in terms of the workforce you have right now, like what would you say about your existing workforce? Does it meet the community needs in terms of what your service you're providing for your community, or are there still gaps that you're trying to kind of bring in a new workforce?
Yeah, so the short answer is there's always gaps, and there probably always will be. There's always room to grow and spaces to fill. I kind of look at it at two different kind of parts. I'm not from that area. I was brought on to help build the network and then asked to stay and run the company. But one of my last goals to achieve is to replace myself with somebody local and develop that capacity to run the company. So from a leadership perspective, there's definitely a gap there, and it takes a lot of effort and a lot of time to develop that in the community. It's hard to find people that are willing to stay with it for a long time and put the effort in to really to grow. When you find them, you hold on to them and you treat them really well, and do your best to nurture them and grow them into that position. But even from just a general workforce level, kind of like management level and technicians level, it's really hard again to find people that want to do that. It's kind of a new area. Most people up there tend to go either, if you're a guy, you're going to be a mechanic or an operator. If you're a girl, you're going to be a teacher or a nurse. That just seems to be the default settings. So trying to show them, look, there's a whole new industry here, a whole new field of employment that we can get you into. It definitely is it's a challenge, and we spend a lot of time in the schools and working with them. We support kids if they're going to go off to college. We're there for them the whole time. We'll give them jobs every summer and make sure they can get back to work for us if they want. But like right now, I have about 10 employees. I'm still looking right now, have been for a while, for a senior level, management type level IT person, outside plant technicians. There's always gaps.
Yeah, you touched on a nice subject that is, it's a new field, and there's probably concerns and things that you have to deal with considering it's a new field, but we'll touch that later in the conversation. So Nikki, in terms of your existing workforce, in terms of the role that you do, do you lead a team in Manitoba?
Yeah. Yeah, right now I currently lead a team of I have like 150 positions open, which is pretty great. And most of the times they work in the schools. I'm trying to get them to explore, to go out of the schools and like kind of like in the community. So that, because like in the community, like there's most of the organizations in the community don't have the budget to have an IT person in their organization. So they tend to utilize that one that one IT guy. So yeah, no, we let them like reach out to like go work in a community. But it is hard to retain the youth, especially because I work with people between 18 to 30 mainly. But yeah, no, there's like always gaps, and it's just hard to find people. And then like we try and do we go and talk to those people in the schools about trying a new career, because they know that can be scary for them, trying new things. But yeah, no, we try to talk to them and reach out to them to say like, just come try it out. And like, you never know if you like it or not. Most of the times they started liking it. Our group last year, we had about 50 youth that worked for us, which was great, in like 50 different communities. And then half of them went back to school, which was really good stats, I would say, especially for Indigenous youth. But yeah, no, there's always gaps, especially with working with First Nation youth. That's just for me. I don't know.
Thanks, Nikki. So by the map that I see there for IU, your network, it sounds like in terms of the workforce that you need to maintain that, it sounds like it's quite extensive. Like in terms of that need that you have for the workforce, where are you in terms of meeting the need to maintain that network?
Yeah, of course there are gaps. One thing that Alfred really wanted to emphasize was that we really need to think about the workforce for a network like this in two separate categories. One would be the outside plant. This is the field technicians that are working on fiber installations, repairs, towers, and logistics. And then there's the network operations center, and these are the engineers and IT specialists. Outside plant workforce, ECN has had much more success. They've trained local crews in fiber installation and tower maintenance and logistics, and this allows for a really much faster response in the communities. Whereas with the NOC workforce, this is a much harder challenge. This requires advanced engineering backgrounds, being able to do things like IP networking and redundancy planning, cybersecurity. And so this has been more difficult, to find talent in the communities, but as well as just even recruiting and retaining the staff, because they are remote geographic locations. They're quite isolated. There's long travel times. But so currently ECN relies heavily on a small pool of highly trained staff. They have 34 employees at ECN, 8 of whom are Cree working in the communities. JBCCS, the radio broadcasting, they have 15 permanent employees, all of whom have been trained in broadcasting and expert Cree language skills. So yeah, there are challenges, but they're getting there. Yeah.
So you bring up in terms of indigenous local talent or people that have the potential, what percentage is there? Do you have enough talent within the communities to be able to meet the needs for your organizations, or do you have to outsource and bring from outside as well?
Well, for the field technicians, it's pretty much local, yeah. But for the NOC, like then it's they have to recruit from outside of the communities.
Would that be the same for everybody else as well?
Absolutely. We find the same thing that we have a lot better success finding the outside plant guys locally, but the IT type stuff and the NOC stuff, that's definitely more of a challenge. There's very few of the students seem to want to go, do a couple of years in college and come back and do that kind of a job. Yeah, I think we've trained now 6, 7, maybe 8 local people to be splicers. A couple of them still work with us. That's great. They're really good at it too. But we have one student that we followed through. He went to college. Went here in Ottawa, actually at Algonquin, and is now working with us. He stayed with us through the summers, and he's now our IT guy. So we're very happy with him. But wish we could have more of that.
In terms of recruitment, then, what's the best strategy that you have found to bring in the talent to work for your organizations? Do you have one, or is it like
from out of town? There's not much of a good strategy there. It's, we provide housing and pretty much everything they would need, and try and be as accommodating as we can. But really, honestly, the answer is if you can find someone who's willing to move to Schefferville and live there, we'll teach them the rest.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Just as take advantage of your map. Our community is probably just to the right of your title up there. It's fly in only. It takes some adapting to live there. It takes a kind of special kind of person to want to be there.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So, in terms of recruitment, all the jobs that you require to work in your organizations, do you require technical skills and the specific training? Is it the only model where someone has to go down south or outside and come back? Is that the typical way to attain the required skills to work for your organization, or should there be another hybrid model that might work for you to retain new talent or acquire new talent? Like, what's the best way do you think that you do? Are you going to do the old traditional model? Unfortunately, try and hope that someone gets trained downstairs and willing to come up north.
Yeah, I don't want to steal all of the attention here, guys.
Yeah.
No, we found that the best training model for them is to bring somebody up to do the training locally. We have taken groups of guys to Montreal, for example, to do splicing training, and it's fun for them to get out. But realistically, I much prefer to bring somebody into the community. They can see how we work in the community and then adopt the training specifically to that. I've also found that it requires a different model than what these trainers are often used to. I found with our guys, they very, very much want to see and touch and feel things first, and then you can talk about the academic stuff later. Mm-hmm. But most trainers are the opposite. They start with, well, let's tell you the basics, and then we'll let you touch it. And we lose guys before the halfway point of the first day. So we have to kind of restructure the training in a way that will suit their learning style, and it makes a huge difference for them. So just bringing them in, doing it locally seems to be the best approach so far.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons why we try our model, the Indigenous Cognitive Workshops, is where we try and bring the training opportunity in the community, because we're trying to whet the appetite of as many locals to consider this area as a potential career choice. So that's why we're trying to bring, but it has its own challenges of doing it that way, and we're doing our best. But anyway, in terms of, you mentioned retention of good talent. What I've heard too is if someone gets the required skills, they become, other talent, or other organizations can pay better, come and scoop them up, or make offers that are really hard to refuse. And I'm sure, is that something that is a concern with your organization as well?
It's the opposite, actually, because ECN has been recruiting from Talabac and Bell. So,
congratulations.
Hey,
do tell.
Well, actually, the general manager used to work at Telebec. So, yeah, they've been successful in recruiting a lot of staff. But I think, one of the things that Scott Ford of JBCCS said to me when I was talking to him about this was that, when he was hired on sort of a leap of faith. He had no experience at all. Now he's executive director of the radio network. And they just took a chance on him and they offered training. And when he was being trained, they had to have people fly in. They had to spend hours on the phone and dig through manuals. But today, like, technicians can watch a video and they can get remote guidance. During the 2023 wildfires, he was using AR glasses to be able to guide technicians in remote communities to how to troubleshoot and restore communications. So there's if you have the infrastructure in place, there's a lot of potential just through video conferencing, online courses.
Fantastic. Sean, do you?
I was just going to add to that when it comes to the retention question. That is actually our main goal. Is I mentioned in my the mentorship program that we have is a 1 year, but they have the option to stick with us. And my first two, we went through the 1 year. Then the next two after that, they ended up staying with me voluntarily for about 2.5 years. And then it's gotten to the point where my latest one, and that's the ultimate goal, right? You want them to move on to bigger and better things. And my latest mentor started in January, and we barely got through 6 months, and he was already hired for the First Nation as their IT guy. So it's just it's bittersweet, and you make a plan for a year. And I think my only complaint is now I'm mentorless until January again. So it's really great.
Lonely coffee breaks.
Yeah, exactly. So that entire just wanting to see them go off and do bigger and better things is definitely a heartfelt thing.
Yeah. So we have youth here, and I'm hoping that you're getting a lot from this conversation to inspire yourself and to see what is possible. So what would you guys say to youth like the ones that are in the room in terms of this field, this career? There's not just one option, there's many options. What would you say to the youth that are maybe even listening as to what the potential is in our field?
Okay, we'll go this way. Okay. Well, the potential is immense. There is just so much that you can do. There's always new technologies, so there's always learning. And from what I've seen, both networks, the people are really passionate and they really are excited to go to work, and they're always learning. So yeah, I highly encourage you to think about, going into IT or broadcasting or.
I'll go first. Okay. Well, one thing I would say is don't be afraid to try in a career in IT or telecommunications. It's constant learning. There's always technology is always advancing and changing. So just don't be afraid to learn new skills as you're going along in this career. And just learn off, especially your mentors. They have some valuable information and skills that you can learn off them. That's about it.
Yeah, I just also want to point out that these networks, they take a lot of work to run them, to design them, to build them, to manage them, and there's a lot of different career fields. But it's not just that. There's so many opportunities that come with these networks, the over-the-top stuff. There's no end to the things that you can do in the community once you have that connectivity. So there's if you have the drive and the creativity, the imagination, you could do anything with it. So it's not just to be an IT person for a network, but what else can you do with it now that you have that connectivity? So much room to grow and expand, come up with new things. And there's a big gap in these communities. They don't have that stuff right now, stuff that's available pretty widely other places, and stuff that nobody has yet because you're going to develop it and design it and come up with it yourselves. There's endless opportunity.
Yes. And I guess coming from myself, I feel like more of the grassroots portion here. I would say don't be afraid to challenge and educate yourself and innovate wherever you can. But I think the best part of the human being a human being, is what was I going to say here? This would probably my rude one. Oh, yeah, your attitude will take you everywhere. So go into everything with a good attitude, and you will go good places.
And great advice. Great advice. Yeah. So I didn't choose to be in this field. I just kind of backed in. And the more I talk to people, it kind of sounds that's more common than I thought. People just kind of, I had a friend who went to a telco. He brought me over, and I always joke that he just caught me on a bad day. I was willing to change, and I went over. But once I stepped in and had these conversations, I realized there's a whole opportunity to help impact. Because what I realized is what we're doing here, it's making impact. It's meaningful, not just for what's happening today, but if you do it right, it has lasting effect for generations. And to me, that's the power and the purpose of the work we're doing. And so, I guess part of our job, and one of the things that we're trying to do for the ICS or the summit here, is to kind of promote what we are and get as many people to listen in and say, you know what, I want to help out and do what I can and even have a career in this space. Because I'm sure I'm not the only one in this room that just kind of backed into this, because I wasn't planning to do this, but I'm happy that I did, because I've got to talk to many fantastic people who are motivated and doing great work. And it's like you said, great attitude. And but it can beat you up, but that's okay, because the work is most important, and it motivates you every day. So I'll get off my pulpit now and say. So in terms of the conversations, is there anything else? I'll probably open up to the floor. Is there any questions from the room? And if there is, I'll have that happen. But in terms of, I guess, the question of retention and making sure that we don't, once this generation of workers in this field, we have the next one. What would you say is probably the best takeaway or strategy that we should consider considering that? Because I'm sure that's a concern that we all have. Is what retention, making sure, like, how do we make sure we have as many of the next generation to come in to fill in when we move on?
I think it's really actually about network ownership. I think that if the communities own their networks, I think it kind of generates a much more awareness. People want to look after their own infrastructure. And then I also think that, I'm just thinking about in terms of JBCCS, what they're doing. They have this broadcasting network, but they're also live streaming. They've developed all kinds of programming, like Speak Cree to Me. Now they have a puppet show that's in Cree. There's, when you have the infrastructure, it just comes, like all the creativity comes. And I think that makes it a really exciting place. So I think that's really what, connectivity can bring, is a sense of having a voice and allowing that creativity to flow in the communities, and all the young people that come and bring ideas for the programming. Yeah.
Thank you. So do you have any ideas or takeaways for the room or people listening online in terms of inspiring, so that when the current workforce eventually moves on, how do we inspire the next generation to come in? You're young enough. I think you're part of that generation right now.
Well, yeah, yeah, because I'm part of.
I think it's probably continuing doing what you're doing, because it sounds like the fact that you're part of a network and you're connected to over 100 staff, you said, and you're doing meaningful work in schools in the province of Manitoba. Yeah, so like that to me is inspiring, because you have you're making impact within the province, across the province.
Yeah, I don't know. For the youth, I just, I try showcase these careers to the younger generation. I want them to see other youth working in these fields. Like it's nice for them to see like exciting new careers for the younger generation. Most of the times I try to do hands-on stuff to like hands-on workshops and to try to retain them, and just showcasing like, hey, it's like networking is not just sitting on a computer, but like it's like working with like multiple different like wires and just technology. Like it's always changing, so I just try to make it as exciting as I could. But yeah, that's what it.
So I guess first off, 100% support with what you said. Infrastructure in the community is so important because then you have jobs there, you have places you can see and do and grow with that. So that strong support there. But the other thing is just investing in the kids, investing in training and developing and making them, giving them a place to work where they're going to want to be there. There's always going to be another option. There's going to be the band office or the mine or something else that's going to pay lots of money and maybe be easier work sometimes. But if you make the place, make your network, your company the place everybody wants to be, then they're going to come and stay and invest in them. You know, it's so important to make sure you're putting the effort and time into helping them develop, get to where they want to go, look at what they want to develop, like just not just professionally, but you know, even personally, the things that they want to do, and just make sure you're supportive of their plans and ambitions and push them to where they want to go.
Thanks, Sean.
Yeah. I guess I feel, I got to say, I feel like I'm kind of the hippie of the group here. I come from a psychology background, but my main passion is IT, and what's kept me in there is a lot of what I believe is going to retain the youth in there. And in my opinion, and I agree with my colleagues here, definitely all that stuff. My belief is that we can teach anyone to plug a network cable into a switch. That's the easy part. The challenge is really looking at the human side of networking, in creating those support groups for the youth, letting them know that, hey, you know what, don't worry about imposter syndrome. I suffered from that to this day, to be quite honest. I mean, like, there's a question of me, like, why am I sitting here up here with these fine folk and talking to everybody here? But there's other people that see stuff in you, and that's what they need to know. And they need to know that there's that group that's going to be there to support you when, say, you got an IT problem and you just don't know, or maybe it's just been a hard day at the network went down and the servers just won't go back up, and it's Friday 4 p.m. You have to go home. When that happens to me, and it's happened, believe me, I had to take that home with me. And but thankfully I have a supportive group of friends who sit and talk with me about it, and whether we talk about the problem or we just forget about it, it's that human side of networking that will really keep the sanity. So go Team Hippie.
Yeah, that's I love that what you just said. You know, I'm sure all of us have a bit of imposter syndrome. I'm having it right now, talking to you guys. What's the next question? So I guess we'll open up to the floor if there's a mic to be shared and moved around. If there's any questions, I know that there's a question in the front here.
Thank you. I'm with Team Hippie. I just want to say thanks so much, the ICI, for this amazing summit. It's really been eye-opening, and I've been hearing a lot of things where industries in these remote communities where people are wearing multiple hats, it sounds like there's a lot of potential for burnout. And so I'm wondering about how you navigate the strategies to help support your staff, especially when there's gaps related to retention and ensuring that they are supported. Are you looking at mental health groups outside to come in to do workshops? Are you looking at some sort of aid to help with your staff? Because, you know, as these jobs can be demanding, we also want to ensure that the employees are healthy and safe. So I'm just wondering what your strategies are around that.
That's a great question.
well, for me, anyways, for my organization, I've been trying to help out my youth. Like like just this our last group. I tried to do this like mental health Fridays, like once a month to see if they need to reach out because like they're young and they didn't want to look like they didn't want to talk about it with I guess their supervisor who they were working under. I tried to make a group within my like group of interns, I guess that's what we call them, to try do mental health Fridays at least once a month, to see if that would help with burnout because I like working in a school. There's a lot of requests for them to like be doing a lot of troubleshooting. So yeah, that's just my way. That was just my way of thinking to help them. Was just trying to do like a mental health Friday. But I don't know about you guys. What you guys do in your organization to try help your employees, but
Did you find that helpful?
they found it helpful.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah, they
Actually.
found it helpful. Where I would like, I don't know, I would let them take a Friday off to like Friday afternoon off to like go for like mental health walks. I don't know if that may help them out, but yeah.
And to go along that same lines, I mean, let's be real here. No, has any IT ever been called into an office to say, "Hey, you're doing the system's fine. Sit down, have a coffee. How are your feet? You need a massage?" No one ever calls for that. It's always the time of crisis. So you end up carrying, some people will end up carrying that energy with you. And then Kathleen, back there, we were just talking about carrying energy with you, the vibe of everything. And when what we ended up doing was the same thing, support groups. I guess in my team hippie sort of way, I come from a psychology background. I've got my Augustana University 2000 honors in psychology, but that more helped me learn myself. So what I end up doing, I only take on 1 or 2 mentors a year. I wish I could do more, but that's the my number for the quality of service that I feel like I can give them. And believe me, there's been many times I've had some of my or ITs break down because sometimes they're carrying too much, and sometimes it's not even IT wise, it's home life. And so we've taken days where I just say, you know what, the server can wait. Let's go have lunch, and then just take that personal time with them, with either as a group or by themselves. But like I said, the human side of network is one of those often forgotten sides. And the other thing we did was we created what we call the MIT, the Musquecheese IT group, and it just sounds cool. And it's a close knit community of everybody within Musquecheese that I've worked with, and we just kind of meet every once a month or so, go to BP's, have some pizza, talk shop. Sometimes we just talk, but yeah, that's about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I should probably start by saying that my staff they've been practicing work-life balance long before it was ever a thing. I had to adapt and learn from them that their hierarchy of priorities is very clearly family, community, and then somewhere down here we have work. So that's something we just have to work around. It's the way it is in the community, and you know, we do work with that. But we're kind of at that awkward size where we're big for a little company, but we're nowhere near a big company. So we just now brought on our first full-time HR director, and she's looking after a lot of stuff. And one of the things that we're doing, is funny that the timing of your question, she's now looking at, you know, we have a benefits package, but does it really have enough in there for that kind of support? Do we have an employee assistance program? And literally, she's like talking to me about this morning. So it's funny timing, but it is very important that we have that. It is certainly our employees do have a lot of things that they deal with outside of work, and that can have an impact on work. And we take that very seriously. It's part of that, you know, investing and treating your employees properly, and it is a big thing.
Thank you. Is there any other? Do you need the mic?
Yeah, so my question is gonna be an AI question, of course. So the godfather of AI, Geoffrey Hinton, has been asked, as other people, about the future of work in an AI-driven world, and always talks about how highly skilled and specialized jobs like doctors, nurses, tradespeople are likely to remain secure because, quote, you'll have to be very skilled to have a job that AI could not just replace. And however, there are traditional white-collar jobs, some digital roles that just could disappear very quickly. At the same time, we have this rapid change of new opportunities can arise. Communities can be positioned to lead or adapt very quickly. So given your deep experience, tech training, workforce development, how do you see indigenous communities navigating this next wave of job disruption? And maybe where do you see the opportunity?
The question is like, is there concern that AI will take away jobs? Or is that something that you will have to deal with?
So I think if I start, we generally we consider that using AI in an appropriate way is a skill in and of itself. Like I'm not really worried that AI is going to take any of my guys' jobs away, but I do want my staff to be able to know when it's appropriate to use AI, how they can use it, what it's good for, what it's not so good for, how to make sure that they're using it and checking it and coming up with good products and results. Like it can definitely save some time. It can do some mundane things that don't need a lot of creative thought and things like that. But it's not ever going to be well. I shouldn't say ever, but for now, it's not something that's going to take any of our guys away. But we do try and teach them to use it as a tool where appropriate, but make sure it's only being used as appropriate.
I follow the same lines. I believe AI is just that, a tool. And I mean, when the analogy I use when I'm talking to my guys, and I've been asked the same question also, is well, did the pencil take away the conversation? No, it's another form of a tool. You just need to know how to properly use it. And just like any other tool, it can be used for bad or it can be used for good. However you choose to wield it is really up to you, and it can become a very powerful tool because it's quite impressive at emulating a human being, but it's not as impressive as emulating a human being, right? If that makes sense. Thanks.
I would just say I agree. I think that, yeah, I mean, there's still always going to be a need for on-the-ground technicians and people running, the network operating center. I think honestly, as a policy researcher, I think I worry about my job being replaced. But in terms of like the network, I think it's always going to require people, and they are starting to incorporate AI in to some degree, so to improve efficiencies.
Thank you. Do you have anything to say, Nikki? Okay. Any other questions from the room?
I have a question with regards to workforce continuity planning and ensuring that your network is robust or resilient, continues to be in that way. I'm not sure if I heard anything in terms of succession planning within your workforce. Thank you.
Succession planning, yeah. Is there something in place?
Start again. Yeah, I kind of mentioned briefly, I think a little bit ago, but we do have what I've called my Indigenous Capacity Development Program, and so I'm specifically investing a fair amount of time, effort, money into developing that leadership, the leadership skill set within local people to take over. My goal is to ultimately have all of our senior positions, as many of them as possible, be filled by local people in the community. And so it's a long process. It's certainly not quick. And to be truthful, finding help for that is also a challenge because it takes a lot to keep to have the resources to develop that. But we prioritize it. We just make sure it's going to happen. And yeah, we definitely are looking towards having all of our senior positions, the entire company run by local people.
Yeah, well, in EUHT, the Cree Human Resources Department has run some training programs that ECN and EU Mobility are involved in. So they both prioritize, training and employment of Cree and regional residents. So yeah, of course, the goal is to increase local expertise, but ECN's role in workforce development has really been to create internships, mentorships, and like hands-on learning opportunities. So yeah, it's really about cultivating that workforce within the company. It takes time, but like as Scott Forward has said to me, like it really does take, belief and trust, in the people that you're bringing in, that they are going to be there and they're going to cultivate the skills. And it's worked out. And hopefully continue.
Thank you. More questions? We have one in the far corner here. I know Phil had a question as well.
Hi. So I wrote out quite a intense set of questions, but one of them that I'm particularly have been thinking about this whole time is, so from what I remember, some of you or one of you have mentioned that you're seeking highly educated and very experienced IT technicians with years of experience. However, there's a huge discrepancy in, rural communities that don't quite have access or have the privilege to, have access to such educations or such opportunities. And so I guess what my question is, it seems like a lot of people seem to mention seeking high-level technicians, but what are you doing to foster such professionals so that, a lot of people, especially nowadays, they always want someone with lots of years of experience that are highly educated, but with the rising cost of everything and all of that, people having to move to larger cities or maybe even across the country because they don't have schools in their local area, so that they can learn what they want and go into the field that they need to. So like these professionals, these highly educated and very experienced professionals, what are you doing to foster such professionals? Because they're very far and few in between.
Me again. So I was probably the one you referred to, saying that we are looking for a senior IT person. But we start as young as they'll let us get to them in the high school, from the first year of high school or post. I guess, I don't know, in Quebec they call it Sec 1 or something. I guess the equivalent of grade 9, something like that. We get into the classrooms and meet with them, talk to them, present, show them stuff. We bring toys for them to play with, bring splicers, we bring cables into the network, into the classroom. We show them that stuff and we try and encourage them to get interested and play with it. As they get closer to the end of high school, we're definitely encouraging them to go to school, to go to college, or at least take some kind of education, post-secondary education, to get a good base. We will give them a job whenever they're not at school. So summers, they come back, they work with us, we help them. We'll support them while they're in school if they need help. Like we had, I mentioned, we had one of our guys, Lazarus, he came here to Algonquin here in Ottawa, and I happened to live here. So I was there to help him if he needed anything. If there was something he specifically wasn't understanding, I'd help him. No problem at all. I actually helped him find his apartment when he got here. So we'll want to make sure they're going to be successful. I know it's challenging for these kids. A lot of them, it's first time off reserve, and it's Ottawa's not exactly a huge city, but it's a lot bigger than Kawashikamash, I'll tell you that. So it's a new world for them. So we do what we can to support them, make sure they're going to be successful, as successful as they can be through the school, and then we have a job for them when they come back. But what I was referring to earlier is we've got a couple of guys like that now that are there working for us, but we need to develop them and mentor them in the workplace. So that's where I'm saying I also need a senior person who's got that experience, who can help manage that team and provide the guidance and support that Lazarus needs now to grow into that role. And yeah, I really hope that one day Lazarus has that role as the manager and I'm bringing more students up and we just keep that pipe flowing. So I hope that answered it.
That's a really awesome answer.
One way that came to mind to your question is bringing the education to them, and that's what the ICI does here. From my vantage point of Standing Rock, I actually partnered. I teach at our local college the IT courses, computer courses, and what's going on. It's funny you're asking this because just this year, starting January, I started redeveloping courses, but I wanted to ensure that the courses were industry aligned. So the Microsoft Office specialist courses, the different versions of IT, but mainly the CompTIA A+ Network Plus. We've developed courses that are now in talks with our local college to have them accredited. So then we don't, as I mentioned before, I've been sending my students off to NAIT, and that's in Edmonton. That's a whole hour away from our community. But if we can get these, develop these courses and bring them into the local community so no one has to travel a whole hour away just to get this stuff going. And when it comes to IT, you can teach as much IT online, but there's not so much, you got to put them, let me put it this way. Have you ever tried to learn swimming online? Right, you got to get in the pool once in a while, right? So that's what we're doing. Is we're trying to bring everything down there. We actually do have a partnership with, we're in talks with NAIT to bring some of their courses to our college also. So bringing everything, making everything accessible. I guess is my answer to you.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, for me and my group, we do the same thing. We do the CompTIA, and then it helps them get into like our local universities and at least the first steps. It kind of minimizes like one course that's part of their curriculum, I guess. So yeah, I don't know, that helps them out. I guess get a step further into their career. I know that course can be a little challenging for them, especially when they don't have experience in IT. But we try to help them out as much as we could by offering we give them review notes before the course before they take the exam, I guess, at the end there, and then we try not to get them discouraged if they fail. We let them try again and again and again until they pass. But yeah, that's just from my standpoint.
One thing that I've learned talking to a lot of engineers is most of them expressed interest in math or computers at a really young age. So I think it really is important to get into the grade schools and talk to kids. And to that end, like ECN and EMI have been doing class visits in the elementary schools, trying to you just expose the children to the potential, of doing an advanced degree. And that is becoming more and more of a possibility while staying in the community. More and more students are completing their degrees from their communities, with the infrastructure in place that they, so they can do long distance education. So, hopefully, in the coming generations, we'll be able to see people completing engineering degrees in community.
So I think we're at time. One more question in the back? Okay. Oh, okay.
From our community perspective, what we're dealing with right now is the drug epidemic, and that really affects everything. So when I hear, going to post-secondary, I don't think that's an option for a lot of people in our community. It kind of feels like we're in a war zone right now, and I don't hear that being brought up. Maybe our community's unique, but I don't really think we are in that way. So here we are trying to raise a IT workforce in a war zone right now where we're losing a lot of our people daily. And so what I try to do is get them right out of high school, bring them into the workforce, show them what IT looks like, show them drones, show them, you know, all the cool stuff and kind of lure them in. But then I believe you can train fully online. I don't believe that you have to go away to university, that you have to do this, you have to do that. You can simply bring them into the workforce and do some on-the-job training and let them learn their CompTIA, let them learn their Microsoft Core courses, and let them get certified that way, and then put that into use once they have that knowledge into the workplace. Sorry, am I being loud, too quiet? So that's what we do. We do train them online, and we do put them into the workforce. And you know, the drug epidemic is really affecting the way we recruit across the board, and especially IT. And how we support our team is through, you know, meetings and whatnot, and to have a kinder approach. And someone mentioned it earlier, how leadership or senior level can be quite brutal to us sometimes. And I think you have to have a good leader in your IT team to be a shield against that, right? To deflect that and to set realistic expectations from what your IT team can and cannot do. And in some of the areas where you are, where you have holes or gaps, utilize your vendors, right? That's what we do. We utilize our vendors until we can build capacity within the team. So that's my take on this. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Oh, I think there's one more.
Okay.
I just want to make a call to you guys to help us out in the NWT. Excuse me. We have currently a school that's shut. There's 14 kids in Wrigley that aren't going to school because they don't have a teacher, and they don't have a teacher because they don't have housing. So in the north, we want to get connectivity, but there's so many, there's housing, there's substance abuse issues. There's so much that we have to grapple with in order to move things forward. Like with Lyle, we connected using Starlink, 2 big communities that never had connectivity before, or very slow, as we all know. And we can't get the GNWT to help us do online learning. Like, it's just, nobody wants to, it's like, I feel like they want to keep us in the dark, right? Our people in the communities, and now drug dealers are getting in there, and it's just, and they never used to have that much access to the small communities, but now they do. And when people have nothing in the communities, that's the direction they're going to turn to, right? And so I'm really making a call to you all, like, you guys, what you guys are doing is so far ahead of what we've got in the north. And I don't know if there's other people here that are in the same boat, but we are still fighting just for the basics. And so think about us and fight for us, because there's not a lot of us, but we need help. So thank you.
Thank you. Sally. So I think we're at time, so we'll have Sally ask her question or make her comments, and then we'll go on to the next. So thanks.
So this is more of just a general observation. And, you know, it speaks to what Leanne is saying, or sorry, Brenda, and, you know, some of the other people are saying here. And I just wanted to say, like, as a society, we have been here before. 100 years ago, they probably had a conference and they brought together people to figure out how on earth are we going to provide the expertise needed to run these cars? Okay, when cars came into being, like in 1925, everybody was driving them. We had no roads, we had no gas stations, we had nobody that knew how to fix them, but everybody wanted to drive them. So here we are now, 100 years later, and I'm not saying we're exactly turning ourselves into pretzels over this, but we're trying to grapple with the workforce gap. So I agree with Tricia, and I agree with this other gentleman. You have to start children young. That's important. They have to see role models. They have to see people who look like them in these jobs. So I guess what I'm saying is, let's not be too hard on ourselves. This is all new stuff. So it might take 20, 30 years, before we've got this issue settled. We've got all this stuff coming at us. This is a field as huge as medicine. And we have all this coming at us. AI, ethics, liability, getting the networks actually built so kids are, and the impact on the kids. How is this impacting the kids? Yes, we bring these networks into the community, but what's it doing to the kids? Are we giving the community the tools to handle this technology? So there's all these things that we're dealing with now at the expense, I might add, of a lot of our mental health. Personally, as provincials, everybody in this room, are you looking after yourself so that you can give back? So that's just all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Sally. We're going over time, so I think we have some momentum going, so we'll just carry on. Yeah.
I just wanted to, as we're wrapping up, I always like to make sure I get this in. I want to give a huge shout out to my own staff. I'm very lucky. I found some of the good ones in the community, and they're hard to keep, like I said, and we put a lot of effort into it. But I know they're not here to hear it, but I always make sure I give a big shout out to them. That doesn't work without them, and I very much appreciate everything they do. So I just wanted to thank them too.
Yes, yes. So we have, I forgot your names, so.
Thank you very much. I will be quick. I just want to put an offer on the table. I am Adiel Aploga. I'm Vice President for Technical Engagement at ICANN. When we hear about ICANN, we hear about domain name, we hear about policy, etc. This panel resonates so much to me that I want to say that we have a lot of programs that can be useful. My team is about building capacity in the technical environment all over the world. We can work with all of you and the ICI to bring our expertise to expose those young. Exposure is important. Letting them know that they are not isolated. There are other people having the same challenge, facing the same problem. How do you bring them, expose them, give them the opportunity? Those things change. I myself have been through that, right? So it resonates so much to me that I would like to work with you individually, Frank, all of you, to build something that can help those young, as far as they are, to understand that this technology is transformative. And it's transformative for them, but also other people in the world are going through the same process, so they can relate. I would like to really build something out of this panel.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We'll be in touch. So with that, I will bring it to Fred to take us to the next thing on the agenda. But first off, I just want to thank the panel for your time and your thoughts, and everybody in the room that partook. I think it was a meaningful conversation, and I have some takeaways to kind of mull over afterwards. So anyway, thank you.